Now, again, as I've introduced already, economics is easy. You only have to learn half of it. I'm going to start this lecture with what we call the law of demand. The law of demand. I do it from my notes to make sure I get it perfect. Law of demand. It starts with two funny Latin words. We wouldn't be college professors if we didn't use Latin to make ourselves sound fancy. That is ceteris paribus. The sentence makes sense without those two words, right? Even not knowing what that means, the sentence makes sense in context. Ceteris paribus is Latin for all other things being equal. It's a phrase that economists and other social scientists throw on to tell you we're holding everything else constant. And for the law of demand, we're just considering changes in price and quantity. We're holding everything else equal. Ceteris paribus. All other things equal. As prices rise, quantity demanded falls, and vice versa. What do we mean by vice versa? As prices decrease, quantity demanded increases. Right. It's no fun if we don't do some graphs. We will use our old friend, pizza. Well, pizza. And by convention, price goes on the vertical axis. Quantity along the horizontal bottom axis. This will not change. Get used to it now. Pizza prices in an economy. Every supply and demand graph should have a title. Every graph should have a label on each axis. All graphs that you turn in, all graphs that you do in your job, all graphs that you read in a newspaper, all graphs should have a title and all the axes should be identified all the time. Just make a habit of it now, you'll save yourself a lot of time later, I promise. What this says is, as the price of pizza is, I'll switch out. As the price of pizza is relatively high, the quantity demanded will be relatively low. If you suddenly find yourself in a community where pizzas are selling for $20, how often will people eat pizza? Not as often. It will be relatively low. However, if the cost of pizza is relatively low, Little Caesars moves into town, $5 hot and ready. People will think that's a good bargain, I want more of it. The quantity of pizza sold in this town, I imagine, would be relatively higher. It's a very small town. There's only these two firms. The one that existed before that was selling $20 pizzas, and now Little Caesars moves in. Is this company immediately going to drop their price and go, oh, 20, we were kidding about the 20, sorry about all those years, we meant 5. I don't think they're going all the way down there. What's the thing about Little Caesars $5 pizza? It's crap, right? It's not very good. It's a crap pizza. So there's still a market opportunity here. And they're probably fleecing you a little bit here, all right? But they can do, I bet they could put a $10 pizza on the market. Can we agree that that's about the Papa John's, Domino's sort of level? The $10 sort of pizza that we're willing to pay for? And at this point, we'll buy a certain number of them. Can all three of these points exist in the marketplace? Sure. Sure. But what we see here, we see a certain curve beginning to develop. We see a demand schedule. This is a demand schedule or a demand curve. It's a straight line, not the way I've actually drawn it up here. Yours should look better than mine. Again, can every point along here be valid? Sure, absolutely. I'll do another one on the same graph. Pizza is here in green. Because I'm not a very creative individual. All right, beer is in blue. You know where I'm going here. $1 per can beer. Relatively high demand. Oh, what did I have? Dragon's Milk Chocolate Stout by Anchorhead was the last one I had this past weekend. It was a really good double chocolate stout. I had a howler of it. I think that howler was $11 for my craft beer. Then I bought it at the same liquor store you can buy everything else at. But a friend of mine recommended this, one of my homebrew friends recommended that I go try this double chocolate stout, and it was excellent. It really was very good. But $1 a can is your PBRs, right? And how many PBRs was the liquor store moving that Friday or Saturday night when I visited? They were moving probably a good deal and a high quantity. How many bottles of the $11 Dragon's Milk double chocolate stout were they selling? Not as many. It was not as popular. It had a considerably lower quantity. All other things being equal, as prices rise, quantity demanded falls and vice versa. In this example, are we holding all other things equal? Not really. We're not holding quality equal. We're not holding quality equal, but still we're going to tend to see the same sort of pattern with our demand curve. D, demand, downward. D, demand, how do they slope? Downward. Demand curve slope down. We'll go through some examples. Demand curve slope downward. steepness of our curve, okay, the steepness of these curves is going to come into play a lot more. The steepness of these curves, we're going to do some math on. But the question here that we get into with the law of demand is, by how much? By how much? Again, with price and quantity. In purple, I'm going to do that's an extra value meal. That's fries, a burger, and a drink. Anybody not see that? It's fries, a burger, and a drink. This is an extra value meal. About how much is an extra value meal? Can we call it $5? Wendy's, Baconator, a little higher. Taco Bell, a little lower. You can say about $5. At a $5 price point, I think we're going to sell a certain marginal quantity of value meals. That's fine. What if we raise the price up to, say, $8? We sell just a few fewer or a lot fewer? I think we sell a lot fewer. Because there's so much competition, right? You can go somewhere else. Typically, if there's a McDonald's somewhere, you're really close to finding a Burger King, a Wendy's, a Crystal, a something else. McDonald's actually puts so much market research. They hire people like me, economists and data scientists, to look at the demographics and to study traffic patterns and look at how many people in this area make what on average, how many kids there are is important to McDonald's. They put a lot of demographics research into this before they build a new store. You ever in your life seen a McDonald's go out of business? Excepting to build a bigger McDonald's. I am older than you, and I've never seen a McDonald's go out of business except to build a bigger one. They do an enormous amount of research to figure out where to play in their stores, and they hire people like me to do that. What does Burger King and Wendy's do? It's built next to McDonald's, yeah. Do they do that research? No. Do they do all that demographics and hire economists like me? No, they just wait till McDonald's builds a store. They build next door. They've already done the work. Very competitive environment. So I think even if you were to lower the cost to $3, I think you'd have a demand curve that looks like this. I'll do D sub FF for D fast food. I think this is what our demand schedule would roughly look like for fast food. On the same graph, I'm going to do a different one. I'm not going to try to draw it. I don't want to know if you do, but there are some people who take insulin, all right, for type 1 or type 2 diabetes. If you take insulin for something, you're dependent on it. You need it to live. All right, you have to have your insulin. Without it, your body will not be able to break down sugar. You'll go into a diabetic coma, and eventually it will be the end of your life. A certain price for insulin, people will buy a certain quantity. What if we raise the price considerably higher?
They still have to.
Who thinks they're going to buy exactly the same amount?
Nope. They're going to supplement.
They might supplement, or they might do something else. They're going to buy still a lot. But I think the demand curve is going to look a little bit like this. What can you do instead of taking insulin? Not a lot. You can take a little bit less insulin. You can take a little bit less and change your diet or your exercise routine and things like that. If you have type 1 diabetes, you can't really go without insulin. All right, that's juvenile diabetes, which you have from as a young child. Your pancreas simply isn't creating insulin. But look what's happened. We've had, if I draw some verticals down here, we've raised the price by a big jump, right? We were here. Now we're here. We've taken a large jump in price, and what we've seen is a small decrease in demand. Alternatively, with our fast food, this is a relatively small change in price, which has resulted in a large change in quantity demanded, right? So the slope of these graphs matters a lot. The slope of these graphs matters a lot. Before someone brings it up, I'll just put it on the board. Someone always brings it up. I filled up today at lunch. I paid $3.52. I was at a Speedway in Springhurst, and I got my 3 cents off by using my Speedway card. I think I paid about $3.52. At this point, we'll say that people will purchase a certain quantity of gasoline. Let's lower the price dramatically. $2. Holy crap, it's game time, right? Rock out, let's go nutty. How much more are we gonna buy? I don't think we're gonna buy a lot more.
Where are you going to put it?
Right, where are we going to put it? Once you've filled up your car, and your mower, and your jet ski, and your boat, and your four-wheeler, you guys have all those things too, right? Okay. Once you've filled up all your stuff, I think we're going to buy more, but I think we're going to buy a lot more. Will we travel more? Yeah. Take more vacations? Yeah. Does the fly-drive decision get a little different? If I'm going to Chicago, fly or drive, it's 5 hours to get up there. It's kind of a pain in the ass. I can jump on an airline and get to Midway in just an hour. All right, but that decision changes based on the price of gas, right? But what if gas gets super expensive? Call it $5. Do I just quit driving?
No.
Usually not. Now, more people are going to take the bus, I agree. More people are going to ride their bike. Fewer people are going to drive to Chicago. Maybe I don't need to see the Cubs seed this summer that bad. Maybe I'm not gonna do it. But I think they'll buy a little bit less. And I think our demand curve for gasoline will look like that. Who's realized it helps to have more than one color in my classes? It helps to have more than one color in my classes. The elusive vertical demand graph. A vertical demand graph that does not slope downward. Can anybody think of a product? If it's not this one, it's going to be hard to come up with, isn't it? Liver transplants, maybe? Kidney transplant? Even with a kidney transplant, at that point, do you think some people would go, listen, I'm not going to burden my family with $2 million of debt?
Mm-hmm.
You think that sometimes might? I think maybe. I cannot think of any product or service that fits this perfectly vertical demand graph. If you think of one this week, if you come up with one, you need to do two things. First, tell me quickly, immediately. Secondly, tell no one else anywhere. Because what would this indicate? We're selling this quantity of it, X, whatever X is. We're selling this quantity of the good for this much money. We'll use these same numbers, $2. We sell this quantity of it, right? At $5, we sell exactly the same quantity. At $200, how much do we sell? Exactly the same quantity. At 6.3 million, exactly how much do we sell? Yeah, exactly the same amount. We're going to go into business and we're going to charge millions for whatever this is. Then we're going to book plane tickets to Stockholm and pick up our Nobel Prize in economics. Because no one's come up with one yet. What about the elusive, perfectly vertical demand curve? The also elusive, perfectly horizontal demand curve. This is more common. This means that there's only one price. And at that price, people may buy or sell less or more of it. This is more common, but it means that there's only one price. This is what we would call a perfectly competitive market, where all of the firms have competed themselves down to where everyone is selling the thing for the same price. Perfect competition. It happens. I'm thinking about things like gold and platinum and pork bellies and corn on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and a share of IBM. A share of IBM, you know how much it costs. You just look it up and that's how much IBM is today, right? And you're not going to pay more than that for the most part. The Chicago Mercantile Exchange sets one level for things like corn, agricultural goods, gold, silver, platinum, copper. You're not going to sell more or less than that. Very competitive markets, but still very rare. Still very rare, the perfectly competitive market. Any questions? Yes.
But doesn't gold shift in price?
Gold does shift in price. Gold shifts in price, and what we see there is that the whole demand curve
Oh, so it'll
is
just move
shifting. Yep.
straight in?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions on these?
How can you get more quantity at the same price then?
How can you get more quantity at the same price?
You just keep going over.
Yeah, you just shift out, you just keep shifting out this curve. On Thursday, they want to buy this much, on Friday, they want to buy this much. On Saturday, nobody goes, so they only buy this much. Yeah. And remember, ceteris paribus, we're holding all other things equal except price and quantity. Anything else on demand before I start erasing?
So does that mean in the horizontal line, the price remains constant,
The
but you
price
can buy
would-
as much as quantity?
Right.
Okay.
Our fast food example is relatively close to this. Let's say a burger, a fries, and a drink is roughly $5. The fast food environment is very competitive, right? They're everywhere. And you pretty much know what you're going to get. Consumers have good information. There's plenty of competitors, plenty of consumers. They've bid the price down to right about $5. In the very short term, gasoline is another one of these, where it's very competitive. The firms bid against each other pretty quickly, don't they? And they can change their prices real fast, especially the ones with the LED signs. They just flick their things and set the computer and it'll change their price. They can be very responsive to consumer changes. Maybe I'll shop at Kohl's. I love Kohl's. What kind of price tags do they have? You seen the price tags?
Yeah.
Huh?
Electronic?
Yeah, the little electronic price tags. And even the sign on top of like the rack is electronic. And if you grab it and turn it over, it'll have a little ID on it, and sometimes a barcode. Kohl's can change those prices around the store wirelessly. They can send out a wireless signal. They can start a new sale and send out a signal and change those prices. They can be very responsive to changes in demand. If during a back-to-sale weekend, they're like, holy crap, nobody's buying shoes. Nobody's buying shoes, what do you do to move more shoes? Reduce the prices, yeah. They can react in real time. Your gas station can react in real time to changes in demand. The law of demand says that as we drop the prices on things, people tend to buy more of it, holding other things equal. Oh yeah. Economics is easy, you only have to learn half of it. The law of supply. Ceteris paribus, all other things held equal, as prices rise, quantity supplied rises. And vice versa. We will keep our same naming conventions, price and quantity. Here we're talking about the amount that people are willing to sell. the amount that people are willing to sell. And I will start with their labor, people's willingness to work. If I take out an ad in the paper and say, I need people to come and work for me, I am willing to pay $7.25. On a quantity scale, will I get a whole bunch of responses or not as many responses? Not as many. I would say low. Especially if I were to hang something on the bulletin board over here. What have we got? Interested in internships? Come to the office. CPA review. What's that one? Volunteer options? Big Brothers Big Sisters, volunteer options. That's labor. What are they paying? Nothing. The internships, what are they paying? Nothing or very little. We got business cards over here. Accounting tutor, okay. That's all we've got on our bulletin board. If I were to put something on the college bulletin board and say, I need people to come and work for me, $20 an hour. How many responses do I get?
A lot.
I think I get a lot. My quantity is quite high. And Amazon is in town. They're paying about $11 an hour. We all know we can go work there. We'll get a certain number of responses. We see, again, economics is easy. You only have to learn half of it. A curve developed for labor. A curve developed here for labor. Labor supplied out in the marketplace. How many people are willing to go work for a certain cost? Yes.
So now, would that work? How would that work in the food market? I mean, if the prices are actually going higher, there is not going to be much more of a demand, right?
Well, stay with me for a minute. Well, I'll put something else up here. Gourmet tacos. High-end, locally sourced, organic, whatever you want to do, quality tacos. Not the stuff across the street. High-end pork carnitas with cilantro and fresh lime tacos. Let's say that people realize there's a demand out there for gourmet tacos. That what we used to be selling these for was across the street $1 per taco. But we realize that people are willing to buy, they're willing to pay $5 per taco. If beforehand people were like, listen, times are hard, I'm not working very well, I'm just not going to pay $5 for the taco. If the tacos are selling in the marketplace for $5, are more people going to get into this business? I think they are. Yes. I think at $1, if no one has money to pay for high quality food, very few people will want it. But at $5, I think there will be more quantity of high-end tacos sold. As the price rises, the quantity supplied will increase. How does the quantity supplied increase in the market? Over here on our green graph, how does the labor supply increase?
Price.
Yeah, people are offering more. More people decide, you know, for this, I just don't feel like working. I'd rather stay home and watch TV. But for $20 an hour, what are they going to do? I'm out there, I'm in. Here, are people interested in opening a new taco restaurant if they know they can only sell them for $1? No, but if the price rises and we realize that this is a market with a taste for gourmet food, who's willing to pay for it? And there's people in this market who are willing to pay high-end prices for quality food. You might open a store like my neighbors on Market Street, Taco Punk, 3 for $7, pork carnitas. See there, I just made another $3. So I'm really not selling advertising during lectures. But they have good food. I really like it. Ride your bike down there, 10% off your bike number. I don't know why, that was a bit weird. The more that we put out there, the higher the price goes, the more people are willing to produce. Where are my farm families? I've always got one or two. Where are my farm families? I see a couple of reluctant people who are like, it's all right, stand proud, people.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So as price goes up, like, it's kind of hard to say the quantity is going to rise. Sure, people are going to be interested, but you're going to have to take in account like quality of those people.
All other things held, yeah, all other things held equal. What if this is a job loading boxes all day long? And this is a job tasting beer and watching football. Okay, those two things aren't equal. Certainly, more people want this. You know, all right, we have to hold all other things to be equal. We have to assume that they're all jobs loading boxes onto trucks or what have you. We have to hold everything else equal. Market for corn. For my farm families, market for corn. In 2012, let's say, there's a drought in the Midwest, and this pushes the price of corn very high. The next year, what are farmers more likely to do? They're going to plant more corn, right? They're going to supply a high quantity of corn into the market. If the price of corn has been very, very low for years and years, they're less likely to plant a lot, and they'd rather plant things like soybeans or other crops. Will the price of what they can get for these things on the market influence what farmers plant? Absolutely. Will the price of these things determine what type of store you want to open? Absolutely. Will the price of things change whether or not you'd rather stay home or work overtime or go get a second job? Absolutely. The higher the prices these things are, the more things we see supplied in the marketplace, and vice versa. D, demand down. Supply is the opposite. Supply curve slope upward. Apartment buildings. Apartment buildings. Some of the highest rents in the country are in San Francisco, in Northern California because of Silicon Valley and the technology booms. They're hiring a bunch of people who are very highly paid computer and technology professionals. So those people are willing to pay high ends for apartments. Also in New York City has among the highest rates of apartment rents and stuff in the country. When these are very high, what do we expect more people to build? They'll build more apartments. They will increase supply quickly as humanly possible. If you can't rent an apartment for very much and it's very low, would you like to invest in new apartments that you know you're going to have to paint and fix the carpet and shampoo and all that? You're much less likely to put those things out there. One of the reasons that rents are so high in Northern California and Oakland and San Francisco in the Bay Area is because of zoning laws that strictly limit how many you can build. So what if we are to artificially cap our supply at this level? We artificially cap our supply at this level. And say, no more than this, you can't build any more. What would we expect to prices? We would see an ordinary supply curve going like this that would keep going. What do we see in this case if we limit supply?
Shoot straight up.
We see a supply curve that does that. We can't change the quantity, right? The city government has said no more apartment buildings. It's very difficult to build one. So the price just goes up and up and up. New York City is a different situation. They haven't limited the supply. What New York City has done is limit the price with what's called rent controls. New York City has put in place rent-controlled apartments. And if you have one, you never move. You keep it forever, and you rent it out to other people if you can get away with it. And they've found people who are holding rent-controlled apartments long after the leaseholder has died to keep low-cost rents. They put rent controls in place. So in this case, what has happened in New York City, with a rent control in place, do people want to supply new apartments? Not particularly. They don't want to build new apartment buildings. In addition, not only do they not want to build new apartment buildings, what do they want to do to some of the existing apartment buildings?
Tear them down.
They might turn them down, but there's something more practical they can do with them. Anybody lived to or been to, what is it?
They increase the rent.
They're going to increase the rent dramatically, but you're rent controlled, right?
Right.
So once you run up against that, the city says there's nothing else you can do.
You can sell them in condos.
You condo them, right? You condo them. You say, these aren't apartments. They're not for rent, they're for sale. And if you have a building that's full of rent-controlled apartments, what they'll slowly do is every time someone moves out or leaves, or they take that unit condo. Nope, it's not for rent, it's for sale. Used to rent for $1,000 a month, now you can buy it for $250,000. It's not an unreasonable price anymore. We can look at these things, we can look at the effects of rent control and of exclusive zoning laws and such, using these sorts of supply and demand graphs. We can use these as thought experiments, like our island, with our coconuts and our fish, as a thought experiment to decide what might happen. To look at these things and think, given a certain price and a certain quantity for, no, sorry, I'm going back to labor. If labor is at a very high price, we expect a very high quantity supplied. More people want to work, more people respond to our ad, more people show up to put in applications than if our job is low priced. But how many people out there are paying $20 an hour to fill boxes? Very few. Here's the demand for labor. Who demands labor? Employers, right? People who hire. An employer isn't necessarily just a factory or a warehouse or something. It could be us deciding to have someone mow our lawn, clean our house, do our dry cleaning, hire an attorney or a plumber or a carpenter. I'm trying to hire a tree guy to come and cut down trees. I'll hire a tree guy to come and cut down trees, and I'm willing to pay a great deal of money to have him come and do it. I'm not as willing to hire a carpenter. And I have some carpentry I want done. But I'd rather do the carpentry myself. Why?
Equipment costs.
Equipment cost is part of it.
Risk.
Yeah, risk is a huge one, isn't it? I have a comparative advantage. I might be able to do some carpentry. As a matter of fact, I can. I'm a passable bad carpenter. I can get that done. Guess what I can't do? I can't safely cut down a tree in Germantown, even a little bit, without risking not only my home, but probably several other people's homes as well. I'm much more willing to pay for the labor for a tree guy to come and cut down trees than a carpenter or a plumber or a lawnmower. The demand schedule is completely different. Putting these two things together, a supply and a demand for certain types of labor, we reach a point that we call equilibrium. We reach an equilibrium level of price and quantity. Which I'll label as P sub E and Q sub E. We reach an equilibrium point of price and quantity, where the price here might be, say, $11 an hour, and we need 700 people at this price and quantity to fill our trucks with boxes. At this point, we say that a market clears. We use the term that a market clears. At this point of equilibrium, commerce will take place. Things will occur. I'm going to do just a couple examples on here. I'm going to go through them a little bit quickly, and I want you to know I'll follow these up next time. Okay? I'm going to do a few examples here, and I will follow these up next time. But let's say in this market that we have here, we say, listen, $7 an hour is just not cool. You cannot pay people $7 an hour to work. It's just wrong. We're going to, as a people, say that this is morally wrong. And we put a price floor on at $10 an hour. Everyone but all my markers but green are dying, so I'm going to try my best to get through this. I forgot to replace them this week. We put a price floor on at $10 an hour. Here. At this price, how much labor will be supplied?
Wherever it intersects.
How much labor will be demanded? More labor will be demanded than supplied, right? And what will happen is these market forces, and by market forces I mean people out there trading with each other back and forth, people negotiating, will eventually, there's more demanded than supplied. More people want to hire. The demand for labor is people who want to hire, right? The supply is people who want to work. At this $10 level, there's more demand than supply. What's going to happen to the price? It will be pushed up. They will bid the price up to the $11 market wage. The $11 market wage. And in this case, the $10 minimum wage won't have an effect, because the market has pushed that wage higher anyway.
So
But-
what happens if it's a higher
getting there. I love it when you guys anticipate it. We get there. Okay, we say that, you know, that's not enough. We need a $12 minimum wage, which is what a lot of people are arguing for fast food. There's actually saying 15. You heard 15?
Seattle was.
Yeah, Seattle, well, it's not Seattle, it's SeaTac,
Yep.
which basically encompasses just the airport.
The airport.
Yeah, it's just SeaTac, Seattle-Tacoma, Washington International Airport. 90% of the employment in SeaTac is in that airport. Albuquerque, New Mexico has a relatively high minimum wage that they've put in place. But let's say some people are saying $12 for fast food. Okay, and let's do our math. At this point, we go out to our lines and we see that the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied are here. At $12 an hour, a lot of people want to go work, right? Quantity supplied, which is laborers, which is workers, at $12 an hour, quantity supplied will be large. At $12 an hour, how many employers are going? Absolutely, bring them on. Any more? Wait, we were at 10, now at 12, I got to pay them all $2 an hour more? Quantity demanded will fall. Ceteris paribus, as the price gets expensive, demand falls. So now our quantity demanded, given by where this price crosses our demand line, is lower in quantity than our quantity supplied, which is this point here. So what would we call the difference in quantity demanded versus quantity supplied?
Unemployment.
It's unemployment, yes. We call it a shortage of labor. I'm sorry, shortage of jobs. This is a surplus of labor. This would be unemployment. This difference down here we would refer to as a shortage of labor. Unemployment, right? Unemployment. At this price level, if we artificially fix this price level, this is how many people will want to work. This is how many people will actually be employed. What happens between this $10 and this $12? People have become unemployed, right? Does that mean that we close down some fast food restaurants? I don't think so. Price could go up a little bit, but remember our demand graph where we said that the price is relatively flat for fast food? And if we increase the price by just a little bit, more people are going to change their minds, right? If I increase the price of the value meal, more people will be like, you know what, I'm just going to take lunch. I'm going to take my lunch to work from now on. It's not worth paying that $7 an hour, or that $7 for a value meal. It was $5, that was okay. $7, I'm just going to take my lunch. Remember, because they face a relatively flat demand curve. What's going to happen with these surplus laborers now?
Work less hours.
They could work less hours. That almost always happens. They almost always work less hours. That's the first thing that happens. I think the second thing that's going to happen in fast food especially is they're going to take that little ordering station that they've got with the pictures for icons on it, and they're literally just going to turn it around.
No cashiers.
Now what happens? Yeah, now I just walk up and go, I want a number 5, no pickles, no onions, drink, medium. You think this is above me?
Panera does that.
Panera does it already. Many places in Europe over the last 2 years are doing this already. There's burger places, little niche burger places that are doing this already. Because when I type my order in, I always get it right, because I know what I want. I think that's the first thing that's going to happen, is that they'll get clever and they'll just take that screen, which is a souped up iPad anyway, right? And just turn it around. We'll talk more extensively on labor and minimum wages, and we're not done yet, so don't pack up. But I want you to see how we can use this sort of framework, how we can use this sort of thought experiment, our supply and demand graphs, to think through what we think might happen in markets. A lot of this semester we're going to talk about what happens in markets, how people make decisions. This is our microeconomics. This is how people make their decisions and how firms, individuals, laborers, consumers, producers react. We can think through this and think about how people are going to react or how they might react. If we do this, then what might happen? This is one case. What if our supply curve instead looks like this? Et cetera, et cetera. Any questions on doing this type of analysis? I know you gotta have something. That's a lot of dotted lines up there. Yeah.
So I get this like in abstract, but like what is it that actually determines the numbers that the numbers that go on there? Like I get it when you say, okay, yeah, we're gonna start at $7 and whatever, but like in the real world, what is it that, like where do they pull these numbers from?
In the real world, it's markets working, and we're gonna get into more of how markets work in the next few classes. But it's people negotiating back and forth and doing this, right? It's when you take the ad out of the paper and say, I do need to hire these 10 people. So put in the paper that we're paying $10 an hour. And if you don't get them, what are you gonna do the next week? You raise your ad up, right? Or if you get 2,000 people, you're like, oh, we meant $10 an hour. It should have said 8. Okay? Or people start showing up and saying, well, it worked for 8, I want 10. You're not worth 10. I want 9. I'll give you 9. You can't bargain like this everywhere, but again, changes happen on the margins. Changes happen on the margins. The little change in the price of the haircut. The little change in the price of the tickets to go somewhere. Has anybody ever seen the price of concert tickets begin to drop as the event gets closer? Anybody else go to Major League Baseball games? Love it. Absolutely love going to Major League Baseball games. Never in my life have I purchased a ticket beforehand to a Major League Baseball game.
Nope.
Ever. Oh, as an economist, it's just the greatest. This coming summer, I'm doing a study away trip to New York City with a group of freshmen. And we're actually taking a week and doing, I do 2 weeks of the class online, then a week in New York City, and another week afterward online. So I'm taking a group of these students to New York City. And one of the things that I've requested the university do, we're not sure if they're going to let me do it yet, but I want to take them to a Yankees game. Number one, I want to go see a Yankees game. Number two, I don't want to pay for their tickets. I'm going to give them $75 in cash and say, all right, go buy your tickets. Where do you get tickets at a Major League Baseball game? On the streets, outside the stadium, through scalpers. Perfectly legal for MLB, as long as you're not on stadium property. Major League Baseball doesn't have a problem. As the game time approaches, what happens to the price of these tickets?
It drops.
They drop dramatically. As soon as that first pitch is thrown, what happens to those ticket prices? $10. Down the prices come. If you're a person like me who really, really enjoys baseball, might it be worth it for you to get in there early and see your ticket? You know that you're going to pay more. But it's worth it for me to get in there and maybe see batting practice. Or to get Derek Jeter's autograph if I can get him to come over by the bullpen and sign it. If you're a person who's not a big fan of baseball and you've been given this $75 and you know you have to use it to buy a ticket, what's your best strategy?
Wait till the last.
Wait
Wait
for
till the
first
last minute.
pitch.
Do you buy the really nice tickets that I'm gonna get right along the first base line? If you're not a big fan of baseball, with your $75? No, you buy the $15 bleacher tickets in the back, because screw it, you don't care anyway. They're not gonna get us out of here for 3 hours, it's gonna be awful. Keep more of your $75. I am a big baseball fan. I would spend my $75 buying good seats along the first base line, where you got the best chance of catching a foul ball. Supply and demand right there. It's one of my favorite real life examples is outside the Major League ballpark. Stop right there.